What is going on, everybody? Travis with Travis's Comic Haven here, and I've got a special guest with me today, none other than Cory Byrd from Bird's Eye View Comics. He is an independent comic book creator as well as an independent comic book publisher. Cory, welcome to my Comic Haven.
Thank you for having me, Travis.
So, I like to start off with everybody that I have on here and just ask a simple question of what got you into comics?
I grew up reading comics, mostly Marvel comics and everything, and I was big into cartoons as well. I watched a lot of Transformers, as you might see in the back, and GI Joe and Thundercats and everything. And Marvel was like one of my biggest things. I love the Avengers. I love Spider Man. X Men is my absolute favorite of all time, and it just inspired me to do a lot. And in the '90s, when Jim Lee came along and and everything started doing the X Men, that just blew my mind. And I'm like, I have to create my own comics somehow. So I started just doodling around, drawing stuff, creating characters, and just through high school, through grammar school, and everything, I was just drawing these characters and copying from the comics to learn how to do panel work and to do the anatomy and everything like that. And that's kind of like how I got into it. Just growing up reading it, most people do.
So you say that you're a diehard X-Men fan.
Yes,
So how did you feel? And I know this is going to be off topic, but I got to know because
that's all right.
you're an X-Men fan. How did you feel about Claremont and Jim Lee and that whole transition? And after Claremont had been on X-Men for what was it, 16 to 18 years, something like that, and then all of a sudden they brought in Jim Lee, and here we go.
Yeah. It was amazing. I mean, I loved Jim Lee stuff because I'm more of an art guy than I was anything. But I did read a lot of the stuff that collaborated with Jim Lee and Claremont and everything. I actually met both of them at a convention and everything, and it was surreal. It was really surreal to meet those guys, and they really established what X Men could be. We had the giant size X Men that happened in I think it was like late '70s, early '80s. That there was Cochran had worked on that. I don't remember who the writer was. And then when the '90s kind of rolled around, it's like that was the era that I really started digging into that, and I really enjoyed what they were doing together. And then after that, kind of like when Jim Lee left and formed Image with the other guys, with Silvestri and McFarlane and all of them, I followed them over there. And I wasn't really into Marvel anymore at that point. I was more reading Youngblood and, a lot of the, of course, Wildcats, Spawn, and everything like that. So I kind of like fell off a lot of the Marvel stuff and started really going into that wild time of Image. So Claremont and Lee being together was awesome and everything. I heard that they did have some differences and everything like that. There's a documentary they have on Amazon. I got to watch of Claremont. I haven't watched it yet, but I definitely want to see how that all played out.
Yeah, I watched that documentary, and it was really good to see. It was more so Claremont's point of view.
Hmm.
And there was some feedback in that documentary from also Jim Shooter as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, definitely check that one out. But we're here to talk about you. We're here to talk about Bird's Eye View Comics.
Hmm.
So give me a little backstory as to you talked about what comics were your favorite that you collected and got you into wanting to do the creative process. So what else triggered that creative process for you to really start branching out on your own to do your own creative comic book?
I would probably say what kind of triggered that. I think it was kind of doing it on and off. Like as I was like reading the comics and I was like studying Jim Lee and studying comic book work, I was like here and there would create little silly characters here and there. I actually had I would probably say this is a precursor to Tooth and Nail, but I created this team called Cheetahs, Six Power Cats, a while ago, and it was kind of like a a mixture of like Thundercats and everything because I grew up with Thundercats and all of that. And each cat character had their own special ability. Even though they were all cheetahs and everything, but they still had like this secret things. And then I created other characters because I was inspired by a lot of video games. So one group that I created called Ghost Hunters because I was influenced by Castlevania, the old Castlevania NES games and everything. So I had one character kind of looked like Moon Knight. He had this hood on and he had a whip and all of that, and then he had other teammates that was with that. So as I was like playing video games, as I was watching cartoons, and as I was, reading comics, it was kind of like this smorgasbord of different things that influenced me. And I just got to the point I was just like, well, I really want to create my own. And funny enough, the first publication that I ever had was actually Shadow Knight, not the one that you're reading now. That's actually a reboot. But the original Shadow Knight I did was in the early 2000s, and I was part of a group called Quality Quill, a bunch of us working together to create our own comics. Chris Bickham was actually part of that team too. He was doing a book for another writer and everything, and that kind of fell apart. And so, what kind of led into other stuff, and I might be going on a little bit too long, but I want to get kind of a background how I got to where I am now, and I guess that's part of the question.
Mhm.
Um, After that broke off, I was just kind of like just doing little art here, doing some fan art, blah blah blah, and I started drawing. I drew 5 pages of Tooth and Nail. That came about because I got married, and my wife's my mother-in-law, had 4 cats, and each cat had a distinct personality. So the 4 cats you find in Tooth and Nail is based on 4 real cats, and some of the other cats in the series as well is taken from real cats as well. But those are the first ones that kind of like the foundation of Tooth and Nail. So when I first started drawing Tooth and Nail, it first started off as, and it wasn't even called Tooth and Nail, it was called Those Cats. And it was like a comic strip that I did. And then it kind of like evolved. I was like, what if a cat was a ninja? Because I was a big Ninja Turtle fan. I was like, well, cats would make a bit better ninja than turtles, to be honest, because they're real light on their feet, they're real quiet and everything. So I started drawing like little versions of those cats in ninja gear and samurai gear, and then all of a sudden it just started evolving into more than that. So I drew 5 pages, only 5 pages of Tooth and Nail, and it sat around for years. And one day I was showing it to a cousin of mine, and he was like, "Oh man, you should do something with this. This should be really cool." And I think at the time I was really heavy into manga and Naruto and all of that. And I was like, well, okay, let me see that. So I redrew the 5 pages. So the first 5 pages that is in the manga that you probably read is the redrawn of those first 5 pages. And so I started redrawing those pages, and it just started snowballing, going and going and going and going, and started growing into the characters that we have now. So that's kind of like where that came from for Tooth and Nail. And then with Shadow Knight, my brother was like, "You got to bring back Shadow Knight. That was one of the coolest characters you ever created." Blah blah blah. And so I'm like, "Okay, I'll do it." But I knew I didn't have time to really dedicate to drawing a full-fledged issue, so I decided to hire artists to do Shadow Knight Zero, Shadow Knight 0.5, and those were drawn by Noah Weber and Chris Booth. And I said, well, I'll let them do 0 and 0.5, and then I'll do number one. And so now I'm in the process of doing number one. And Tooth and Nail has actually made it to issue 10 now, which is I'm very super excited about because I don't think I've ever made that far into doing comics. So yeah, issue 10 is the latest one, but I put it after 10 I said, okay, I'm gonna start working on Shadow Knight number one, and then go back to Tooth and Nail next year. So right now I'm on a hiatus of Tooth and Nail, but I'm still drawing characters. You might have seen like a video I did today of one of the characters from Tooth and Nail,
Mhm.
and everything. Just kind of stay fresh in Tooth and Nail because Shadow Knight is kind of done in a more different style. So I didn't want to lose that with those characters. So that's my long answer.
So every independent creator has their own, I want to call it a story on how they get to be an independent creator, whether it's easy or it's hard. So my question is, when you absolutely finalized that you wanted to do your independent comics, what struggles did you face in trying to create your comic, to get it out to the public, to have it published? Was it something that you tried to see out a publisher to do, or did you just say, "I'm gonna create it and I'm gonna publish it myself," and that's how Bird's Eye View Comics started, or did Bird's Eye View Comics come a little later down the road?
I would probably say the first question I think you asked was like, what were the challenges of even getting this started?
Mhm.
One of the biggest challenges is yourself, your own. Darn it, I can't think of the word. I'm sorry, but it's like, are you able to do this? Can I do this? Will I be? I mean, I look at comic books and I look at what has been done, and I'm like, man, this stuff is fantastic. Can I do this? And everything. So that's one of the biggest challenges, and I had to break through that challenge and say, you know, I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do it the way I wanted to, and I knew that if I did this, will I submit it? Will I see if somebody will pick it up or something like that? And it's such a very difficult market to really get into. I did do Shadow Knight at one point, and I went around conventions and everything, and I get my critiques and everything like that. But it's such a competitive market, so it's really hard to kind of break into it on your own. So that was kind of like the second thing, and then the third thing was the technology. I needed the technology to be able to do it, and everything kind of just fell into place. I think that was God saying, "Okay, it's time to do it." Everything just came in line. I ended up getting an iPad. I ended up getting an iPad Pencil. My friends started showing me some of the programs and stuff like that, like Comic Draw and Procreate and everything. And one of the biggest things I was worried about was lettering. I'm like, I don't want to hand letter. I don't draw. I don't write very well. So I definitely don't want to hand letter. So how the heck am I going to do this? And I did letter with Shadow Knight, but it was very clunky the way we did it back then. And I just wanted something that was going to be a little bit easier. And that's when Comic Draw was introduced to me, and I was able to like drag the drag the pencil. It created a bubble. I can type inside the bubble. Hallelujah. And I knew then that was it. That was like, I'm ready. I'm going with this. And that was what it was. And I think it was the last hurdle I had to get through was the technology of it. And after I got over that hurdle, it just kind of like blossomed after that. So yeah, that was just how the challenges that you have, you kind of got to break through those. First, you got to get through your own self challenge. Then you got to get through, knowing that it's a competitive market that you may not be able to break into on your, based on what they want in the industry. And then you get to the point you're like, I can just do this myself. I had the technology. I got the internet. I got this. I got this. And that just kind of like that's what propelled me into the direction where I wanted to go.
Yeah, and I know what you mean by getting through to yourself and getting past that. When I started doing this, I didn't start making content until January of this year, and it
Mm.
wasn't until I met a guy on TikTok who actually lives in my hometown, um, that we started talking and this and that and the other, and he goes, "Dude, just do it.
Yeah,
Just do
yeah,
it." Well,
yeah,
just do it.
yeah.
It's not going to be perfect the first time you do it. It's
Right.
not going to be perfect. You're not going to get all the views and all the followers like that just because you
Hmm.
posted one thing. Because you're going to get better at it.
Right.
And but so yeah, it's getting past that threshold of self doubt
Hmm. Hmm.
and the thought of failing.
Yep.
Well, what
Yep.
if I put this out there and nobody likes it? And then I wasted all this time and this, that, and the other. But yeah. So going into then being a publisher, how did that come to be about? Was it something that you were tired of looking for publicists to do it and you just wanted to do it on your own? And then what were the challenges of starting your own publishing uh firm?
When I decided to just make it to something, into a publishing group, I just said, well, okay, if I'm going to do this, I got to do this under my own banner, my own way of doing it, and I decided that I was going to create my own, label. And Bird's Eye View kind of came from my dad, my late father, who passed away in 2016. And he created a T-shirt company called Bird's Eye View uh, years ago, and it didn't go very well and everything like that. But that always stuck in the back of my head, like, man, I would love to use that marker to be Bird's Eye View. And so my last name is Bird, of course. And I'm always the name Bird has always followed me through my life, of course. But just being called Bird this, or say, oh, people making fun of the name and saying it wrong and blah blah blah. So I said, well, I'm going to use that for something. And Bird's Eye View is a artistic saying. It's looking from above
Mhm.
down below, and so that kind of plays into what who we are, is to be the birds in the air, looking for people who are, you know, looking to be independent comic book artists, and picking them up and saying, "Hey, do you want to be part of this?" And moving forward. And that kind of like evolved into that, because I was just like, okay, I'm gonna design the logo, I designed the logo and everything, and that was a pain in the butt trying to figure that out. And then I realized, I was like, okay, if this is going to be a company, if I'm going to make money through this, I got to make it official. And so I went through. First of all, I did tooth and nail. I got that copywritten, which is super important. And then I decided to make Bird's Eye View an official company, and got the LLC for it. So tax time. You got to you got to do that, and have all those things and so forth. And so that's kind of like when I decided this is going to be a company. It's going to be small. It's not going to be something big. If it did grow into something big, great. But it's more about the passion of it than it
Mhm.
is about anything else. But that's kind of like how it became something. I said, I'm going to make it a label. I knew Tooth and Nail was going to be what it was going to be, and I was like, well, I got to slap something on there to say who it was. And I went to Blackbird. I went to you know to other things, and I just said, okay, Bird's Eye View. Let me take my dad's, and honor his name uh, through this. So yeah, that's how it started. That's how I got
That's awesome.
it.
So, now that we've touched basis on those two aspects, because the last interview that I did was with a company called Ironclad Comics, and they do the same thing where they also publish their own stuff, but it's their own. You're actually publishing other people's books as well.
Yep.
So that's a different aspect to it as well. But let's get into your two books. You've been mentioning them, so now this is going to be your time to shine, and we're going to get into it. We're going to start off with Shadow Knight because that was the first one for you.
Yes.
So we're gonna kick it off with Shadow Knight. I'm gonna throw up the cover and a couple panels, and I want you to sell it. Sell it. Tell us the backstory of it, how it came to be, even more, and it's this is on you, bud. So take it away.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned before, tooth and nail is something that derived from many years of kind of developing where I wanted to go for these characters, and I'm highly influenced by, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Naruto. So it's kind of a mixture of those two. Like I mentioned before, the four cats are based on real cats that my mother-in-law had. There's Sapphire, Jade, um, Onyx, and Destiny. Now, Onyx was named Buddy, but I was like, I'm not naming him Buddy because that's such a dorky name for a ninja character. So I decided to name him Onyx. And so that's kind of like where that derived from. And the picture on the right or the left, I mean, is the cover for the manga. So that manga is like issues 1 through 6 put all together in one book. Now, this page that I picked out is not from the manga. It's actually from issue, I want to say issue 9. I can't even remember what, what I put together sometimes because it's so much that I work on. But it is from issue 9 because I'm trying to remember what happens at the end, and that's what this is definitely it. So what I love, what I did with this page is the energy that I instill in the action scenes. And if you read more of what I've done with Tooth and Nail, you'll notice from the manga and the early artwork, I was really trying to find out who I was and how I wanted this series to look like. And I was studying a lot of Naruto, and I think when I got to probably, I would say probably issue 7 and 8, and ultimately 9 and then 10, um, I decided to start studying Bleach, the comic book, the manga, Bleach. The action scenes in there are spectacular, and they have a lot of energy, a lot of movement. And so when I was studying that, I was reading Bleach, I was paying attention and using that as an inspiration as I was drawing this page. And the energy in this is just so strong. And a lot of people say when they look at what I've done with Tooth and Nail, it's like it looks like the pictures are actually moving. And I was like, yeah, that's what I was kind of going for. I wanted these action scenes to really pop when I work on them. And so reading Bleach and Naruto and everything, that really influenced me. And the funny part is I don't really use Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic for reference. I usually um my mind is mostly on the cartoon when I was growing up, with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's kind of like that's the base of it. But then when it comes to the action and the drawing, it's mostly come from manga. So Naruto, Bleach, and Rurouni Kenshin. They all have this very energetic. It has the style of the Japanese, samurai and ninja type storytelling, and I wanted to kind of encapsulate that in Tooth and Nail. And this page really pops when it comes to that. Mhm. Yeah. It's very emotional. It's a very emotional scene. This is a some semi I wouldn't say origin story of the villain, but more of an origin story of one of the characters that actually shows up in the Oni book. And if you haven't read Oni, you probably wouldn't catch that, of course. But this is kind of an origin of why the baby character becomes who she is later on in the future. And the way the scene takes out, I wanted to make sure that you could see the mom holding the baby, having this conviction of, should I trust this character and take this money from him so that way I can be able to feed my child. But this character is very, like, you could obviously tell he's not good, and he's a Rado. He's one of the rats that is one of the main villain rats that's in the Tooth and Nail series, and this is a past instance. But mostly, what I really wanted to capture was the emotion in this scene and the way he's kind of like manipulating her to come closer so that she could be able to get the money from him, so that way she can have money because she's poor. And early in that issue, she's like asking people for money, and they're like telling her to go away. She's in a foreign land, and they're treating her like garbage. And so he takes this opportunity to trick her and take her child.
You're publicizing. So you have two books that I have read, um, that you have not worked on, but you published for.
Yes.
And that is Ugly the Duck Warrior and Hatui. Both are great books. Really loved Hatui, and I was kind of skeptical about Ugly the Duck Warrior, but I gave it a shot, and it's a good book. It is. It's got a good story to it.
Mhm.
Um, so let's get into Ugly first,
Okay.
and tell us a little bit about Ugly. And I've got a couple panels that you sent me, or pages rather, that you sent me that are your favorite from that. Now I know you did not work on this, but tell us why you chose to pick this up to publish it.
All right. So the cover is actually me. I did do a cover for that, for the special edition of this. I think that was the cover I sent you a while ago, but that's the special edition cover that I have worked on. But the page itself is done by Shane Hunt. The whole book is done by Shane Hunt. He's the creator, artist, colorist, everything. And Shane is a magnificent artist and creator. Um, the reason why I picked up Ugly is because it was such a cool concept, and it had anamorphic characters, and I'm a sucker for anamorphic characters, and it was just a cool concept of a barbarian duck that's born into a family of dragons, or a dragon. And he's ugly because he is not a dragon. And dragons are usually the ugly ones, but
Mm-hmm.
he's the ugly one because he's not a dragon. And it goes into the ugly duckling story and everything that Shane is pulling from to create this world. What I love about this page is the detail in the castle shot is phenomenal, and the way that the he framed the shot with the guard on the side, and just giving you this sense of a scene. And then you go into, you have this whole discussion between the characters in this council. And I just love this, and I lettered this book, by the way. And I also lettered Hatui the Infamous. But when I letter these books, I'm always dodging covering the artwork. I'm always going to dodge that because the artwork is the essential part of telling a comic book story. If the artwork cannot tell the story without the words, then you have to really think about how you're telling this story. If you take away the words on this scene, you know what is going on. That's great visual storytelling. And so when I do the lettering for this, I'm always doing the best I can to dodge around the artwork and make sure the artwork does not get covered, because I want the artwork to tell the story before anything. And I think Shane did a magnificent job of showing the scenery, showing the scenes, showing the characters. You kind of get a gist of who everybody is just from that shot. You know this is royalty and everything. And this is a king and a council. And before you even can read it, you can see that immediately. And the amount of detail in that castle, I do not envy him for, for having to draw all of that. He did a phenomenal job on this page. I love it. Yes. Right. Hmm. Yeah, fantastic page. And both of these pages are actually not from the second. This is not. This is from the second book. This is not even from the first book. This is from the second book, and that cover is obviously from the special edition of first book. But the reason why I picked this one too. Come on, look at it. Look at it. I don't even have to tell you what. I don't even tell you what's so awesome about this page. You tell me what you think is awesome about it. Go ahead. You tell me, Travis.
I mean, look at the sword.
It's
I
just
mean, look
beautiful.
at the duck face. I mean, it's
Yes.
just he is he's ready to kick butt. I
He's just
mean,
badass.
what more is there? I
Badass.
mean, he's got his roughneck toga on. He's got his shield. He's ready to go.
Yes. Yes. It's just it reminded me of He-Man, it reminded me of Conan, it reminded me of like classic, almost Jack Kirby-ish, style. Beautiful, beautiful shot. Like we use this shot for the pre-order tags and everything. Anytime I can use this shot to show, I have to use it because it's brilliant. And the coloring, the shading, the attitude, the movement, you just feel it. You just feel the power of Ugly the Duck Warrior in this shot.
Mm, 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 mm.
It does make you go, mm.
Now I want to get into Hatui. I liked Hatui um and his story, and I liked how Hatui was done in black and white, and I can only imagine how good it would be even if it was in color.
Hmm. Hmm.
But Hatui is just something else.
Yeah.
Absolutely something else. So
Yes. Yes.
tell us more about Hatui
Yeah.
and publishing this.
Chris Bickham was a good friend of mine. We've known each other for over 20 years, and he's been an artist for Quality Quill, like I mentioned before, and he was always working on Hatui. He's been working on Hatui for probably about 20 something years that I've known him. And when I established Bird's Eye View, I was like, dude, you got to bring this over to Bird's Eye View. This is something you need to do. You've been doing this for years. You have to do this. And this cover is from issue one, but this page is actually from issue two. The reason why I picked this one is because of the color variation here. The splash of red
Mm-hmm.
makes the whole scene just like pop. Most of his book is black and white, but when he decided to put red in his first couple pages, I think it was this page or in another page, but this shot is just powerful. Like you just see that character in the forefront, the characters around him, that the little bitty, instances of the red, as he walks in, it's just you just see it. It's cinematic, and if you can make a comic book cinematic, you have really done an excellent job. And I think this is a very cinematic scene. And I think Chris Bickham's strongest work. He's an excellent inker. All that is hand inked. That is not digital ink. I digital ink now. I used to hand ink, but there was too many mistakes. And it got on my nerves, so I decided to go with all digital inks. I still pencil, but I digitally ink. He does everything, and he makes it so clean. It's so clean. It's like, dude, how did you make it so clean? Like when I was doing, if you look at early issues of Tooth and Nail, it's almost mess. It's almost a mess, that I had to figure out. But Chris walks in and he is like just stellar in his presentation, and I love it. It's absolutely beautiful.
And just like with Ugly that we just saw, the second page again, if it was, I love the red in this page, but if this next page just had even the hint of some color to it, it's already dynamic in itself and it's
Mhm.
going to speak for itself. But just to have a little bit of color to it, I mean, this page here would be wall worthy. I mean, this is
Yes, yes, yes. That splash, man, is just beautiful. Just the detail, the energy, the power behind it. Like Chris just captures that power in his artwork. And trying to do the lettering with this and make sure that once again that it didn't cover what he had done was difficult because I wanted to make sure that it looked powerful along with his art, but I also did not want anything to be covered in this cover. So that's kind of like in this splash. So that's why I kind of like separated the raw and
Mhm.
made sure that it didn't impede on this piece. It's gorgeous. Chris's art begs for colors, begs for it because his black and whites are so strong that his colors makes it even stronger. And where he wants to do that, he wants his books to be colored and everything. It's just that not having time. He has a little one, he's married, and he just
Mhm.
doesn't have a lot of time and everything. We had another artist that just joined our group color one of his splashes, and it looked gorgeous. It looks so good. So his work just begs for colors and everything to really make it pop. But the black and white by itself already pops, and it's just power, just absolute power.
Mm. 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 Mm.
Just brilliant, just brilliant. I love the people I work with. They are just talented. They love what they do, and they're on board with what we're doing in Bird's Eye View, and we're just really trying to truck through it. We don't make a lot of money. We just do what we can with what we have, and we just do our work. We just draw. And you mentioned earlier that you know that sometimes you gotta just do it. You just
Mhm.
jump in there and you do it. And I think all these people just want to just do it. They didn't worry about how much money they were going to make or how much attention they were getting. This is a passion, and you can see it bleed off the pages of our artwork that we just love what we do, and we just want people to see what we're doing.
Yeah, we have a phrase where I work at a steel mill.
Hmm.
So I work in the shipping department, so I handle the steel after it comes out from the mill. And there's always this conception that people who are out in the shipping area with me got to get inside, got to get inside. That's where all the money's at. That's where all the money's
Hmm.
at. But are you going to
Hmm.
be happy doing that?
Right.
Are you going to be
Right.
happy working 4 12-hour days and every day that you're there, you're covered in grease and
Yep.
soot and all that stuff,
Yep.
and you're in the heat because it's hot in there?
Hmm.
Are you going to be happy with that? Is that money that you're making going to counterweight being
Right.
happy in there? Is that going to
Right.
make you happy? And
Right.
I always tell it ain't about the money.
Yeah.
I can go
Yep.
make money anywhere. It ain't about the money. You have to
Yep.
enjoy what you do.
Yep.
And so that's just a testament right there for Bird's Eye View Comics, is that we enjoy what we do. We're not Marvel, we're not DC,
Yep.
we're not Image. We are Bird's Eye View Comics, where we create and we do what we love to do and just hope that everybody else loves it and appreciates it too.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. You pretty much nailed it. Our motto is collaborate, create, and not contend. We don't want to contend with other independent creators. We want to work with other independent creators. We don't want to fight against each other. We want to work together. We already got to fight against Marvel, DC, and all of that. And we love those guys. They're the reason why we're on board. But we also want to create our own, and we want to put our stuff out there. And if we can collaborate with other artists and work together and everything like that, that brings more joy to me than anything, to see these guys get their books published. A lot of these guys have never been published before, that I've been working with, and had that opportunity to help them push to get published, and I wanted them to be happy. And when they did it, they were so enamored. They were so happy, and that was more to me than bringing in a huge paycheck,
Mhm.
because they were able to get out their dreams,
Mhm.
just like I was able to get out my dreams. And a lot of times they don't know how to get started, and I'm like, okay, I'll help you get started. Do the work, give it to me. We'll put it together. We'll put it out there, and that's exactly what Bird's Eye View is all about.
I love it. I love it. But now I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Yeah, yeah, go for it.
So, if Cory Byrd got a phone call tomorrow from Marvel and or DC,
Oh.
Now wait, now wait. You see, you jumping the gun here. You don't know what I'm about to ask you. And they offer you any book that you want to write. Now you can't take X-Men because I know that's your favorite and you would just have a heyday with that. So you have to pick something else other than X-Men. Now it can't be an X-Men related character, it just can't be the X-Men title. So what book, if Marvel and DC called you, what book are you taking, Corey?
Well, first of all, let me just say, I thought you were going to say they wanted to buy our property. And that's why I was like, no, no, I don't want to sell it to them and everything. So that's why I was shaking my head. So sorry for shaking my head before you finished. Spider Man. I would love to write Spider Man because he's a fun character, a complex character. He has a complex situation in his life, but I would want to really bring it back to the ground level of Spider-Man. Like I would like to really, and I know a lot of writers and creators have done this before and everything, but because I will be involved in it, I would just want to have a lot of fun writing Peter Parker, and because Peter Parker's a nerd. I'm a nerd. I'm not a scientist, but I'm a nerd. So I know how he feels, man. You know, he's trying to have a life, he's trying to have his family, but he also wants to save the world. And I'm the same way. Wish I can save the world. I wish I had superpowers to help people. And so I have that. I relate to Peter Parker a lot when it comes to that. Spider-Man is my second favorite superhero of all time. When I was a kid, he was my first, but then Batman became my first. My first when I got older because of the dark, grittiness. And he's a ninja pretty much. So, that took over. But if I were to write a character, it would definitely be Spider-Man. Now, draw Spider-Man, I probably wouldn't do that. I don't think I have the skills to draw Spider-Man.
Work at it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would have to do some major studying in anatomy and everything because I think that's one of my biggest weaknesses. I still struggle with anatomy and making sure the poses look cool and everything. I'm still a little too stiff for Spider-Man. A lot of Spider-Man is very nimble and his body pretty much contorts and everything. So I want to make sure that I make it look really nice and not so flat. I definitely would be like on the lines of Mark Bagley. Like his stuff is beautiful and I think it was John Romita Jr. did a great run on it, and
Mm-hmm.
of course Todd McFarlane. Back in the day, he's the really kind of one that established like the webbing and the detail in the webbing
Yes, there
and
was a lot of
everything.
controversy over his webbing
Yeah, I love the
and
webbing.
his swing poses too.
Yeah, yeah,
Having his
definitely.
knees up by his face, up past his shoulders, and yeah. So
Hey, but he's a spider. He's Spider Man, man. I mean,
right.
that plays into that. Come on, let it go. I loved it. I loved it.
Well, Corey, this has been fun. This has been fun
I'm glad.
hearing about your publishing and your creative processes and everything, and talking about the books that you guys had over there at Bird's Eye View Comics. You will be making an appearance at a con here coming up at the end of September. It'll be September 26th and 27th. You're
Mhm.
going to be at the St. Anne's Comic Convention in Staten Island, New York. So anybody who's watching or sees this before September 26th and 27th, and you are going to go to St. Anne's Comic Convention, stop by and see Corey. Uh, get some of his works, support the man. He's just doing what he loves to do, and I'm sure he would love to have a conversation with a lot of you guys.
Yes.
So, Corey, it's been a blast, man. I wish you nothing but the best, and thanks for hopping on here.
Travis, thank you so much for having me.
Not a problem.